It's the day before Tuesday, and I'm here, and because I made some sort of deal with myself that we gotta put these out every single week. I'm making this to put one out every single week because I'm in no way obligated to, and nothing's forcing me to. But we're doing it, and we're here, and I'm in a mood, and instead of doing hard drugs about it, I decided to look up a person who probably did, just to see what it's like to feel something or something. But who cares? I don't need to justify why I did it. I learned about a dude, and nobody asked, but this is what I learned. When you're bummed and you're like, cool, now I have to be funny because of no obligation, but except for the one you made. Whatever, shut up. What am I that makes me qualified to report anything to anyone? Kind of nothing, but it's crazy that I can do that. And if I can get like a boner pill company to sponsor me doing that, then you know, I assume racism will go away or something. The point is, I'm not that smart. But I can be here on the internet and say things to other that other people wrote, and just pepper in a max punchline or two, and then it's like basically my own original piece of art or whatever. Kind of like this like doofus that I read about, Andy Warhol. Because like he's a guy who I don't know about. Well, I do, but I don't. He's one of those names that you hear a lot for like a long time, but you never really know what they did ever because looking things up is hard. And we're at a point in humanity where we have to where we can like access all of the knowledge ever, but like Instagram was already open, and like I don't want to learn something because I've been not learning for too long, and I'm scared that if I get surprised with knowledge and facts, then like there won't be as much room in my brain to remember trending reels and TikToks. But like John Waters or Werner Herzog, that guy, Bukowski, the state of Connecticut. Andy Warhol was one of those names, and I figured his name shows up a lot, and so I should learn about him. I heard he was exotic. But I also heard he was like kind of a dick, but I also heard he was like kind of influential or whatever. So I put the internet sleuth hat on, and tried to answer the age-old question, as old as time, since the dawn of time. Was Andy's work cool enough for him to be a dickhead? And I think that to answer that question, we needed three things. We need the threshold for what makes something cool. We need the threshold for what makes somebody a dickhead. And then we also need to know if Andy's work was good enough to where there's any overlap between the two. So this is one of those things where I just kind of wrote more about me learning about the thing than actually learning about the thing. And I also wrote this like months ago. Not that that's an excuse for this to be bad. It will be. Anyways. Oh yeah. So, during my journey of learning about Andy, before I Googled anything, I had to think about what I thought a cool thing was, and then also what I considered to be a dickhead. And personally, I think maybe let's see if my thoughts changed over time. I thought that for someone, especially an art, or for something, especially an art piece, to be considered cool, I want to be able to enjoy said art, but also but I want it to also not intrude on me trying to get through my life. I don't know what I was trying to say. Oh, I wrote, for example, if you drew a picture of a guy on a motorcycle and hung it on the wall, I think that's cool. It might not be a good drawing, but it's a picture that I can observe and move on. But if your art project is an actual motorcycle that's turned on and driving in circles around my apartment, then that's annoying because I can't get away from that. No matter how cool of wheelies the motorcycle is doing, it is still 3 a.m. and I want to go to bed. Yeah, I guess I still kind of stand by that. And then I had to consider what I thought a dickhead was. And then I wrote, I would call anyone a dickhead who doesn't think washing their hands is necessary, someone who doesn't put the shopping carts back, someone who doesn't tip, someone who doesn't wipe down their equipment at the gym, people that have speakerphone conversations in public, people that leave the toilet seat up, people that text during a movie, people that don't say thank you, people who don't apologize for being late but instead just say that they're a late person, the same people who take armrests on planes, some people who blast loud music when driving, people who don't respect the order of priority on four-way stops, people who don't zipper merge, people who you invite to lunch and then they complain the whole time, people who don't decide what they want to eat until they get to the drive-through window, people from Utah, people who nickel and dime you when they owe you money instead of just rounding to the nearest $400, motorcyclists, bicyclists, anyone with a share the road sticker, fucking Rachel from senior year, people who chew with their mouths open, people that open loud rappers that at quiet parts of movies, people that can't look up from their phone when you're talking to them, and people who hold joints weird. I don't know. That was a weird last one. I guess I thought that was a good end to that bit, but it doesn't make sense. Basically, people that are inconsiderate and live their lives in ways that benefit them but fucks over anyone else. Somehow this has to do with art. Then I wrote, there's also people who do murder and rape. They're dickheads too. Yep. But I'm going to hope that most of us assume that that's a given. There's the Weinsteins, the Spaceys, the Cosbys, the R. Kellys, the rest, and lots of people still enjoy their work. Is that okay? Probably not. But The Usual Suspects was a good movie. Okay, I don't know what point I was trying to make. It wasn't even that hot of a take. This isn't original. And what does this have to do with Andy Warhol? I guess this is where we find the dickhead threshold. Does it help that most people probably aren't the best people either? Does that bring up our tolerance for assholes? Does us as a society being generally kind of shitty mean that we are better at separate? Oh, okay. I think the point was like, it should be clear, like, this is a dickhead, that's a nice person, but it's like, this is so much dickhead, and then there's the not dickhead people that aren't like this bad of dickheads, but they're still like annoying. Like, these are people that will kill you. These are people that'll punch you. And then I don't know, this is like Mr. Rogers or something. And most people are like here, where they'll just punch you. But since I don't know what I was trying to say. But it looks like I also didn't know what I was trying to say at the time when I wrote this, because I just said, let's try to just figure out Andy Warhol. Then I said, let's find out why he was cool and what his art exactly was. He was considered to be the master of pop art, which is basically when an art piece uses stuff from now. It's like making a song by sampling songs from around now. So, whatever. Very pop culture chic, I guess. I also could be wrong. I don't remember. One of his first and most popular art pieces was the one called 32 Campbell's Soup Cans. Excuse me. Which is a painting with Campbell's soup cans, 32 of them. And he printed 32 cans of soup, and I'm indifferent as to why that is cool. But they all looked like copies of each other except for the flavor of the soup, which I would consider pretty cool. Some could consider boring. Um, which is also valid, which is cool because like opinions and stuff. Um, I also fuck with soup, so kind of a bias there. Um, but like, does the soup can painting printing thing mean something? Something cool or not? I don't really know. And from what I gathered, a lot of people have a lot of opinions about it. Some people said that he did it because he could, and that's it. Some people said that he's nostalgic about his childhood, where he would eat soup a lot. One guy on the internet said that he was one of the first people who was showing artistic decay, making sad statements about our society's dwindling standards and tastes. And is artist decay cool? Not really. I don't think. But if soup cans were able to at least push back the extinction of artistic expression for at least a few decades, that's pretty cool. I think it's cool that he uses pictures that are familiar to make a bigger, different, and unfamiliar picture. So yeah, I would say that the paint or the soup can painting is probably, it's pretty cool, but do I think it's cool enough to like, I don't know, what did he do? Did he like punch girls or something? I don't know what he did. Oh, looks like I get to it. To add some yin to our yang, or whatever order is correct. Some not cool things about Andy. It was hard to find some of the specifics as to why some people weren't too fond of him. But he apparently wasn't the nicest. A lot of people said that he was exploitive and abusive to people in his professional and personal life, which is not very cool. He would work with other people and companies for some of the things he printed, and then he would not pay them. Again, not cool. Some people also didn't like him for his art. A lot of people weren't huge on the fact that he would use images he didn't come up with, like a soup can, and then use that to make something else. A lot of people weren't stoked on how manufactured his work looked. So, yeah. People were also saying that making and selling his paintings, he was responsible for ruining art in America. Where did I hear these people? These are mostly Reddit comments, full disclosure. But other people said that what he was doing was showing a mirror to society or something. And he was also apparently fairly misogynistic, which is rude. And not cool. And I guess him and Bob Dylan had beef, so I don't know. If we take all of what we learned, I'm sure there's more that we haven't learned, that I haven't learned, because I'm not the best researcher from what I've gathered now currently, and also apparently now in the past, because that was verbatim the sentence that I wrote. If we take all that we have learned, I am sure there's more. I am not the best researcher, but from what I have gathered, and then after that, he made paintings, and he wasn't nice to anyone who isn't him. I would say he's probably a pretty easy guy to separate art from the artist with. Do I think his work is good enough for him to be a dickhead? Not really. I think his work is good enough for him to maybe have a drug problem, and maybe back in the day on a bender he could like get away with kicking a dog or something. But that's kind of about it. I don't know if making $1 zillion selling a heavily filtered Marilyn Monroe picture means that you're allowed to be a dick to everyone you meet. Um, but like you could throw a cat, you know, if I don't know, stupid. Um, and then I wrote, I'm not the biggest fan of the guy after learning about him, but I suppose he could have been worse. And you can always do that with pretty much anyone. Which might be the next topic I try to learn. Who is the worst person in history? I'm going to have to find the worst threshold. But Andy's art is kind of whatever. I think a lot of it would be cool on a t shirt or something. They do look like kind of fun decor to have. But I also wasn't around during the Warhol era. And maybe I would have loved him if I saw those things firsthand. But he seems like kind of a D minus of a person. So that's that. That's a thing I wrote. I don't know if that was good or not. I don't know if whatever. But this is just like Andy Warhol. I can do this, and so I did. It's very pop culture chic. All right. Well, I do stand up. Come to a show. I can do pretty well sometimes. Sometimes I don't though. But I can do it, so I do. That's all.